Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to first ask, I guess Marlene or any of the other panelists could answer in regards to, you're saying Medicaid, but I'm talking about ALTCS specifically. Is that what you're referencing?
Yes. So
Okay.
the Medicaid program is a federal program, and each state has their own set of rules that overlays the federal rules. And in Arizona, Medicaid is under the auspices of ALTCS, which is Arizona Long-Term Care Services.
Okay, great. And with that, I know there's two-part qualifications, one being the financial, and then one is going to be the daily living and what they can and cannot do. Could you speak to one, the financial piece of that, and then I guess the second part as well, qualifying those individuals? My mom has Alzheimer's, dementia, and she does live in a mobile home that I own. We have a caregiver there with her. Room and board is covered, and then we pay her hourly. But it's getting to the point now where we all think mom is progressing and may need some additional help. I mean, she can't cook for herself. She doesn't know what day it is. All the things that come with that. I just wondered if you could speak a little to that.
Sure, I'll be happy to do that. So your mom's case is pretty typical of people that are aging in place and family is helping, and you're wanting to know what the benefits are and how you qualify, and you're correct. It's a true two-pronged test that you must pass before you're eligible for ALTCS or Medicaid services. The first part of that is the health test, which is actually based on a lot of things that you've mentioned. So if your mom needs assisted living because no one is there that can care for her and she can't manage on her own, or maybe she has memory issues, or maybe if she was in a much worse case, she might need skilled nursing care. Those would be the kind of medical things that you look for. And ALTCS does a screening. And sometimes that screening is thorough, but most times it's not. And it may take some assistance from people that are helping family members. If you have medical people that can help with that, it always helps to give them your input because sometimes they miss it, or sometimes when they're doing a medical screening, the ill person themselves might pretend to be very well, and the caseworker gets misled and doesn't see the things that are really going on. So just be aware of that. But they're looking for activities of daily living, like we've talked about. They're looking for cognitive impairments. They're looking for any kind of psychosocial deficit that someone has where they're going to need help. So that's the first and probably the most important test, because if you can't pass the medical test, you're not going on to the next phase, which is the financial test. And when you look at eligibility from a financial standpoint, they look at two primary things in the beginning. One is an income test, and the second is an asset test. And so there are income limits. Right now, if a person is single, this year the limit on their income to have automatic eligibility in that category is $2,982 a month of gross income. So it's possible if they have more to become eligible, but then you're looking at additional things. They might need what's called a Miller's trust or an income-only trust, which is a legal manipulation kind of the rules to allow people with more income to become eligible. And then you're looking at the resource test. A single person has all applicants must only have $2,000 in assets, but there are exceptions to that. Some assets that they could have are, they might be able to have, they can have a home, they can have a car, they can have pre-need funeral plans. There are a few assets that are exceptions to the rules, but when it comes right down to available cash in your checking account, $2,000 is the limit. If you're married, it's a lot more lenient because they make allowances for the well spouse because they don't want to impoverish the well spouse. We could argue maybe that's not exactly what the rules allow right now, but they have changed the rules recently. And so a well spouse in that situation, even though the ill spouse can only have $2,000, the well spouse can have $162,000 in countable assets. So there are rules surrounding all of that as far as recategorizing assets or taking assets that would count against you and spending them on non-countable assets. So just know there are income limits and there are asset limits. And so when you're looking at that, when you said that you own the home that your mom is in, that's totally fine. She can live there. But if she owned it herself, she wouldn't have to sell it because she could have that could be her countable asset, depending on the equity in the home. So when the previous questioner asked about transferring assets, if your mom had let's say she has an investment account, she's got $150,000 in it, and she decides, well, I'm just going to transfer 100,000 or 130,000 of that to you, then the look back rules will apply and those things will need to be explained, and a transfer penalty will be applied, which will make her ineligible for ALTCS for a certain period of months, depending on the amount of her gift. So the rules are complex, but from what I'm hearing you, from what you told me, your mom probably could qualify. If she can qualify health-wise, it wouldn't be very long before she would qualify financially if she doesn't have, a lot of other assets.
That's helpful. I think she would qualify financially. If I'm allowed, could I ask another question? Okay, thank you. If she does qualify medically and financially, does ALTCS allow that payment or whatever they charge to go to in-home caregivers, or does she need to be put in a facility?
Well, Arizona's a really great state to qualify for Medicaid because we allow, unlike many other states, we allow for all levels of care as far as home care, assisted living, and also nursing home facility level. So basically, if their medical condition is such that they could be cared for at home, ALTCS will allow for home health care to come in. Now, there are limitations on the amount of care you can receive at home, the number of hours they'll pay for, but it is a possibility. And then assisted living is treated under the rules like home health care, essentially, but housing and medical care can be paid for. And then if someone is severe enough that they actually need to live in that acute care situation or long-term care, it's really designed, and other states will allow that, but Arizona certainly allows for living in a facility. So Arizona's pretty flexible as far as the condition, as long as you can meet the care needs, meet what they will pay for, and they have rules about that and what they allow. And they will also allow loved ones to become qualified as the in-home health care assistant, helping them with activities of daily living. So a lot of families find that that's a good solution, at least until conditions get worse, that a family member who may have already been helping can continue to help, but be paid an amount from the system to be the caregiver.
Right. And I think, as the gentleman earlier said, cognitive testing and the other kind of testings would determine where, what level mom would be at. And so once that's done, would she, let's say she was qualified for assisted living, does she have to live with someone in assisted living, or would she have her own room, or how does that work? Who determines that?
Well, once a person is qualified, then they can work within the rules of the system to decide if they're at home. Then typically you're going to have an in-home health caregiver that will help there, or a family member that qualifies medically to do that. If they're in an assisted living facility where they're not under full-time care, then the rules, well, the ALTCS rules right now typically pay for someone to be in a care facility where they have probably not a private room, unless that's all that the private of, if that's all the facility has available. But they will find that they're normally in a situation where they might have a roommate. They have caregivers then provided by the facility. So there are all different kinds of situations. It just depends on the person, but there is quite a bit of flexibility in the plan.
Okay.
I don't know if that answers well enough. You can answer a follow-up if you like.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I guess that would be hard for mom since she has been on her own. And then who determines once they're in a care facility, and say they're in assisted living, and then this disease progresses, as I'm seeing over the last year for sure. Who determines when mom would have to be moved into a memory level care versus just assisted?
So normally that's going to be determined by medical personnel, and they're going to assess every so often and determine if a higher level of care is needed. Then once they're already in the Medicaid program, the facilities will normally assist to help find something appropriate if they're not in an appropriate facility, or if it has different levels of care, they'll advance them to the next level of care. So it becomes part of the medical determination then. But once they're qualified for the ALTCS system, then they are going to be eligible for increased care all the time. It's just a matter of working with the facilities to find the proper place.
Okay, so she doesn't have to re-qualify once she's qualified. She's qualified within the system, and then that care can change. Okay, thank you. Thank you for answering all my questions.